About 3 years ago, Legacy Foundation went through a big transition. Their long-term president decided to leave. Along with that, their vice president took a position with the Council on Foundations in Washington, D.C. And when the president left, he actually took one of the key staff members with him. So basically, Legacy was left with an intern and a great board who stepped in during that transition.
I was impressed with how the board chairman and everyone around her rallied together to ensure that the mission of the Legacy Foundation did not waver, did not change, and continued down the path that we had laid out as a board.
We had members of the board that I saw go above and beyond what the typical board would do.
Our chair of our finance committee, Sandy Sneerly-Vosper, she came in and just spent hours and hours going through the records, making sure things were staying on point, on task. Margot Clark stepped in as director of development when we had a vacancy. Robert Johnson, you just can't say enough about the work that he did on our programmatic effort at the time. We had just launched the program called Neighborhood Spotlight. The board was very engaged and committed to making that move forward despite our leadership void. And it turned out we really didn't have a leadership void because Robert stepped in and just did a magnificent job.
Our governance committee was really critical in determining some of the policies actually that needed to be put in place as a result of a new team here.
We had the opportunity to say, well, what is the procedure for that? What does the bylaw say about that particular activity? And in the process, we identified some systems that needed clarity.
The board had decided to do was to make some changes in terms of their investment manager, their accounting, and some of their other infrastructures.
We went through a process where we had a request for proposal. We received about 20 responses. The investment committee primarily was involved in reviewing that RFP. We had several special sessions. We built grids that so we could look at all of the information on a comparable basis.
And the board was really working hard during that time to carry everything forward in a really positive way and keep the momentum going for the organization during this interim time.
The Legacy board was very key in developing our strategic plan for the present, given the changes that with our president, or the role of the president, and going forward.
The Legacy Foundation has been helping Northwest Indiana for the last 20 years. Even though we felt that we were really making an impact in Lake County from this transactional perspective, we really wanted to do something that was more transitional in nature.
With the onset of Neighborhood Spotlight, we've had to change what we would typically allot to what we call our transactional grants into more of an impact type of process, where how much of an impact are we making, or what we call collective impact, and transformational granting. So when we look at the grant process, we look at how is this request going to fit in nicely with what our Neighborhood Spotlight goal is.
It was really because of the board of directors that Legacy was provided several awards back in the fall of 2014. There was a Secretary's Award for Public Philanthropic Partnership that was presented by the Council on Foundations, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Legacy Foundation was one of 10 community foundations across the country that received this award, and frankly, that could not have happened without the leadership that the board provided in that interim period of time.
I believe that change in leadership and that gap there actually helped our board become stronger. It helped us get engaged deeper into the organization and what it actually did on a day-to-day basis, and helped us understand more intimately what was required to run a foundation and be responsive to the needs of everyone in Lake County.